What's up, everyone? I'm CL Conolly. I'm the horror author of the Affair series, and next year I'll be starting a new series called Killer Suburbia. Right now I've just got Forbidden Affair and Family Affair, and I've also got the lone title, Friendly Misfortunes, and they're available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Today I'm going to be doing the Author Journeys tag that was originally done on Carrow Brown's channel. And if I can figure it out, because apparently I don't know how, I will link her channel below. But it's supposed to be like 8 parts, I guess. There's not really questions. And I'm going to go through those questions and let's get into it. If I'm looking over here, it's because I'm looking at the questions that I screenshotted. Okay, let's see. The first one is the call to adventure. When was the moment you knew you were going to sit down and write your first book? What's the story behind how this happened? Okay, so when I first started writing, I was 6 years old. That's when I first started writing stories and everything else. My mom talks about this one time when I was in first grade, and I had written a story to read out loud to the entire class. And the teacher had called my mother and wanted to know if there was anything going on at home that she needed to know about, because it was very creepy and inappropriate for the class at that age. Everything was kind of, killer, murder. Yeah, I'm creepy. I like things. I mean, come on, she's missing her leg. I like stabbing people in my stories, not in real life. But yeah, I was about 6, and through junior high, me and a friend had actually gone back and forth with a notebook, and I'd write part of the story, and then when I got stuck, I gave it to her, and she'd read what I wrote, and then she'd go on from there, and then when she got stuck, she'd give it to me, and we'd go back and forth in this notebook. We had done actually 4 books that way. It was something about, this kid who ran away from home and was living in an old abandoned house. And it was because the neighborhood that we lived in had this like really creepy house right behind on the other side of a fence from the playground that we all went to. And this house had been there forever. And I knew there was a homeless guy living in it. And then at one time we found out that the homeless guy had died inside this house. And it was actually pretty cool. Like, I remember this house very distinctly, even though it was junior high and it's a long time ago. But so we had pretty much used that house as, like the place where the kid went to. And the house was haunted. And the ghost that was in that house kept telling the kids to do things. So he'd like murder things and bring it back to the house. And that's how he ate. And yeah, it was really... It was really creepy. But, hey, it was great. It was fun for junior high, whatever. In high school, I actually wrote a lot of stories in high school that I never expected to get published or anything. But when I turned 16 and my mom would take me to the bookstore, I would immediately go to the reference section and buy all these, writer's reference books. And that's just, what I wanted. I wanted all of these writer's reference books. And I would buy like 2 actual novels that I would read, but everything else in my stack, which was always like, 10 books, everything else was always a writer's reference book. And that's most of what my library has been. And as a matter of fact, I only keep about 5 novels that I actually read at a time. But of course, like I've said before, I live in an RV, so I don't really have a whole lot. And then every so often I go to the storage where we have a lot of our other stuff, and I'll swap out some of the books. Like right now I'm reading Writing the Fiction series and this other one, Grammar 101. And once I get through those, then I'll go to storage and grab, a few more books. I have 5 books here now that are in my room that, are actual novels that I read. But most of my books have always been, writer's reference books, because I, always wanted to learn more about writing and publishing and everything else. Well, there's a few books that I've got over the years, which seems really funny, but when you buy a book in 2005, you don't expect it to have been published in 1982, and most of the stuff in it is outdated. But it's kind of helpful. It's for self-publishing type of thing. It is kind of helpful and everything, but so when I was 16, I started researching on how to get published, and I kind of started polishing up my query letter because that was the only way to get published at the time, unless you had like $10,000 to $15,000 to go to these vanity publishers. And so, I started polishing up my query letter and everything else, and got through most of my 20s submitting query letters. Eventually, it got to the point to where self-publishing wasn't such a, big, huge no-no. And I eventually self-published. And that's when I found Lightning Source, Lightning Source is two separate entities now. You've got Lightning Source, which is for large publishers, and then you've got Ingram Spark, which is for indie authors. And when I started publishing with Lightning Source, that's all that was available. It was Lightning Source and CreateSpace. So I have the 3 books that I have published are all done through Lightning Source. And I keep getting off topic, but this goes to my story. So I had Lightning Source. I published through Lightning Source. And that's how I got that. That was in 2012. And the next one is Refusal of the Call. What stopped you from writing in the first place? Okay. I do have like a gap video that I did where it shows my gap of my writing and stuff like that. Because I got one book published in 2012. I got my second book published in 2014. I started writing Family Affair in 2015, and I never got through it and never finished it until 2018. So it was several years, but that was work and stress and everything else, and it just got to the point to where I just didn't want to. But writing is my life, and I have been writing all the time since I was 6. And it was literally just that little bit of time between 2015 and 2018 that I did not write. And not only that, but I wanted to get Family Affair published in 2016 because I wanted to go with the 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018. So I wanted to at least publish a book every 2 years. And that's, like a generic traditional publishing way too. They publish every 18 months, I guess. So you can kind of do it that way. And I thought that was a good thing to do. The only problem was, though, is that with stress and everything else that goes with, working full time and having so much to do and just getting completely stressed out, eventually it just gets to that point to where everything that you ever loved to do gets pushed to the side because now you have to take time for you to just decompress from everything. Like you can't deal with it. So that's the only thing that I've ever had that actually, stopped me from writing at all. Other than that, I've always written all the time. Okay, and then the next one is Crossing the Threshold, the moment when you took the plunge and first started. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the early 2000s. And when I was querying all of these publishers, agents, when I was querying, because some of these questions don't apply to me, I guess. I don't know. But when I was querying publishers and agents, I used to buy that big, thick book that had every publisher, every agent, everything that you could think of in it. It's a, I don't know, $50, $55 book. And I bought those, let's see, late 90s, bought them through the early 2000s. Big book. Every year I would buy a new one because it would have new publishers in it, new agents in it, and I would query everybody that would take that genre of book. Now this big book, huge book, was literally just listed with hundreds and hundreds, and I would go through and take 2 months to go in and write a list of the agents with their contact information and who it was supposed to be submitted to, because sometimes there's a specific agent at a specific um, agency that you have to query, including in the publisher, because you have to query the editor. So I'd go through and I'd write down all this information. I even paid a friend who was at home without a job. I would pay her $20 a week to do that for me so that I could have that list and I could immediately go, I buy stamps by the roll. That's how bad it is. Okay, I buy stamps by the roll because you have to have the self-addressed stamped envelope, the SASE, inside the envelope. This is how it used to be. This is how I've done it from the beginning. So when it got to 2010 and they wanted emailed submissions, I was like, email now? I have to do technology? So you take the envelope, you put your address on it, you stick a stamp on it, you take another envelope, you put their address on it, you put a stamp on it with your return address, you fold it up, you put it inside, and then you put your query letter in there. Now, it can only be just that one little envelope, that number 10 envelope, unless they request the first chapter, the first 5 pages, and they'll look at it. I had a couple of agents who were like, yeah, let's go ahead and see this. Well, then I'd get a notification back from one, and she was like, oh, I think this is a really great idea, but I think you would benefit from editing services. I can edit it for $5 a page. Okay, now you're getting into the point to where I've been warned about. Because at this point, you don't get published, you don't do editing. Whenever you're an author, you do not pay for anything. They will take that chance. If they really think that your book is publishable, they will not charge you anything. Agents and publishers do not charge you at all for any kind of services. They take that from what they make from your book selling. So if they truly believe that your book is marketable and will sell, they will not charge you for editing service. They will not charge you for book printing. They will not charge you for anything at all. They will take it. They will do all of that for you. And they'll just take their cut from your book sales. So that's what I've always been told. So when an agent came back and was like, oh, I can do editing services for you for $5 a page, immediately I cut off contact. Blocked it. I didn't want that email back. We're done. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is really easy to get scammed on. And I don't want to be one of those, authors who got scammed the first time that they published a book. So I start looking at these vanity presses because it's literally the only thing that was out there at the time. I don't have $5, $10, $20,000 to get my book published. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to pay all this money. But I just wanted to have my book in my hand. I wanted to smell the pages. I wanted to, just have my book. So eventually I did a lot of research. It took 5 years. 5 years of research throughout all of these self-publishing companies before I found the one that would not charge me an arm and a leg for everything. The only difference is I had to do everything for it. I had to do the cover. I had to format all of the pages. I had to, come up with all of this stuff on the back. I had to do everything. They were a printer. That's all they do. They're a printer. Yes, they'll distribute it. Forget my words. They will distribute it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. If somebody walks into Barnes & Noble and says, hey, I want to order this book, they order 5, because Barnes & Noble will not order 1 book. They order 5, which puts your book now on their shelf. So then they have a way to actually be able to, sell it in the store, which is awesome. Other than that, I literally have no idea on how to, get your book inside, brick and mortar stores. But my thing is that I just wanted to have my book in my hand. So I found CreateSpace. and I found Lightning Source. They were basically the same thing. They'd put you both on Amazon. But CreateSpace, at the time, you were locked into a 5-year contract through Amazon. You could not do anything with your book. They would give you the barcode. They would give you the ISBN number. They would give you a template for your cover. You know, they would offer services to format the inside pages. So they offered that kind of thing, but you were locked into a 5-year contract with Amazon, and you could not do anything else with your book. You could not take it anywhere else. All of the rights belonged to Amazon. Yeah, you could sell it because it was your book, so you could sell it for however much you wanted, but you couldn't sell it on a .com except Amazon because it was owned by Amazon. And I didn't think that was fair. Lightning Source would put you on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Borders, but we don't have any Borders around here, so it doesn't really matter to me. I don't even know if they exist anymore. But, so I thought that was a better route to go. All I had to do was figure out how to format the cover, which I know how to use Photoshop, and I can format the inside pages because I'd been already doing that because I wanted to see what a book would look like. So I formatted it into a book size, and I actually had it cut down and bound with the coil on it. So my very first book of Forbidden Affair actually has a coil bind on it. And it has a totally different cover too. It doesn't have this cover. It has a like a random Microsoft Word clip art type cover. But it's basically the same thing. Like, literally, it's just like the little guy on the ground, and it's got a big blood pool around his leg and everything else. So, with the caution tape on it. So, I do have that. I did that, you know, because I wanted my book in front of me, and I thought it was so exciting. I didn't sell those. I didn't sell those at all. Literally, it was not. So, I didn't sell those books. But I just wanted my book in my hands. And it was something that I was proud of because I had actually finished a book that I liked. There were several books that I was attempting to get published in my early 20s that literally I kept getting these query letters back, and I'd get responses back that stated, you know, well, you know, it's great, but you need a little bit more editing. Okay, so I'd go in and I'd reread it, and I'd edit a little bit more, and then I'd edit a little bit more, and then I'd edit a little bit more until I just hated it. And I was like, nope, that one's done. I'm out. So this was literally the only book because I was able to find an editor who could actually do line edits, and it wasn't expensive at all. So I got the editor to do it, and they were just like, here, edit this. Great. I got it back from them. I did all those edits, and that was it. I never had to look at it again, and I got it published. Now, I can tell you that I do go through it every so often, and I'm like, I can make this better. I can make this better. I can make this better. But I can do that with any of the books that I've written, where I can see, because the more I write, the more I grow, the more I can see how I can make it better. So I'm not worried about it at this point. So that was basically when I did that, was when I actually had my book bound, you know, coil bound, and I had it in my hands. I was like, this is it. I have to do this now. So I got all the information for Lightning Source that I could, and I got it done. 2012. Of course, it took me from like 2008 until 2012 before I finally made my decision. I looked at Outskirts Press, which is a big giant no, never go through Outskirts Press. I looked at Trafford Publishing, which is based in Canada. They also have one here in the United States as well. But like I said, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to get your book published. But they also give you a lot of extras and stuff like that, which make it look really good. But they are literally scam artists. Outskirts Press is probably one of the worst of them. I still get phone calls every so often from one of those vanity publishers that, you know, will ask me if I'm looking to get my book published. Well, that book was scrapped and stuck in the back of my file cabinet, so I don't want to get that one published anymore. Sorry. Oh, let's see. Testing, trials, and allies. What did you learn during the drafting process? Did you encounter any difficulties? Was there anyone there to help you during this time? Okay, my mother, I will put it this way. My mother helped me out a lot because when she had actually read the first book that is not published, it was, this cutesy, rom-com type thing. And literally, she is probably the most brutal honest with me. And I love that. I love that. My mom is actually one of my beta readers, just so you're aware. She reads all the time. And she's brutally honest. So she will absolutely, let me know, oh, I'm sorry, this entire friggin' page is boring. Fix this. What are you doing? And I think that's why sometimes when I write my notes, my editing notes, like, fix this shit. What the hell were you thinking, kind of thing. Because I feel the same way where sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm going, what? But literally it was my handwritten version that went into my computer and all I did was print that out. So I have that in front of me and I'm going, I don't have any information here. Sometimes I don't even have any dialogue. It's just like, this person said all this. This person said all this. And it's like, why isn't it dialogue? Why is it in a description? So I do have my mother, who has been one of my biggest supporters. Also, as I'm writing novels and stuff like that, especially when I'm writing them, a lot of the times I try not to think too much about the story. Like, I literally try to go through, like, I know what's going on. I put the pen in my hand, which, funny enough, I don't have a pen right here, so I can't just pick it up and be like, oh, look, here's one. It's red, though. I literally just put the pen in my hand. I look at the last few sentences that I wrote, and I go, I know it can go here. And I just go straight at it, and for some reason, it just comes out. I don't really have a difficulty drafting the first, my zero draft. I don't have a problem with my zero draft. I want to call it that because that's what Kate Cavanaugh, yes, that's what Kate Cavanaugh calls it. She calls it her zero draft. And I like that idea because my handwritten is literally nothing. There's like no description of a lot of stuff. There's half the time there's no dialogue and you're trying to figure out, there needs to be more here. Okay, they were there for a year. Was there any holidays that were had? Was there any issues with something? What's going on? So, my zero draft generally tends to jump around a lot. And if somebody were to read it, they'd be like, I literally have no idea what's going on in this story. I have no idea what's going on in this story. I do, because this is just what needed to get out of my head, so everything's out. I can go back and make the descriptions and do it that way. It's easier for me. But encountering any difficulties is usually getting to the end, because once I'm at the end, I'm like, well, that's it. What do I do now? Because I hate editing. Editing is the bane of my existence. I hate editing. It's literally the worst thing I ever do. Mostly because when I go back and read it, because I love the book when it comes out. Ooh, yes, it's all out. Then I got to go back and edit and go, what was I thinking? Why did it come out like this? It only came out like that because it's in little sections in my head, and I just have to go out, or, I don't know, like Spider-Man. So I have to get it out of me first, and then I can go back through and look at it. I don't know. My husband's pretty encouraging, too. How much did you get written today? It's kind of cute. He doesn't care. He just asks. Let's see. The ordeal. The biggest obstacle to completing your book. I don't know. I love writing. I generally tend to... I write till it's done. That's how it works. I don't know. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is generally anxiety. I guess you could put it that way. Anxiety is a big factor. Because sometimes I get really bad anxiety when I start getting to a part where, like, it's not Forbidden Affair, it's Fundamental Affair, the one that I'm editing right now. Excuse me. In Fundamental Affair, I literally needed a character to start a fire. Like, literally a fire. Not like, oh, I need him to get some, No, it's literally, he's setting a house on fire. A 9-year-old kid. And I needed him to set a fire. It took me 4 days to build up to this kid setting that fire. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even know how to just get into this kid starting this fire. Like, I can't figure it out. Well, once I got it out on the paper and he started the fire and, you know, they left and all that stuff, when I went back to edit, I was like, I know how to make this better. And I made it way better. I was kind of excited about it until I lost it, and now I'm having to redo it. But that's okay. I'm fixing it. It's okay. There. That's my biggest obstacle to completing this book is, you know, fundamental affair is the fact that I lost it. I lost my file, and I had to re-input my file. The resurrection. Even with all of the challenges, what was the key thing that made it possible for you to keep plugging? I can't read. To keep plugging away and finish your book, baby. Generally my passion. My passion for writing is what keeps me writing all the time. And what keeps me going and what makes me generally want to write all the time is just my passion for it. And literally, it's probably one of the best feelings in the world is to actually write something that makes me happy. So that's what I do. Let's see. The road back, the publishing part of the trip. Despite if you decided to go self-publish or traditional, what was that journey like for you? Okay. Here's one of those stories that really irk people. We're going to go to 2001, 2002, 2003, sending out query letters, getting responses back. The first one I ever got back, though, I framed. I was like, yay! It was so great. It came with purple ink on it and everything else, and I was so happy. And it was like, we enjoyed seeing your manuscript for whatever the book was called. I don't even remember. So it says, unfortunately, at this time, it does not fit our needs. Okay, that was nice. So I go through, and some of them you don't get responses from. That's just, you know, how it works. And some of them you get, like, form letters where they just kind of signed it and was like, here, put this in there. That's just basically how it goes. I literally got one from an agent. This agent, what a great lady. So I get a letter back, and it says, we appreciate you thinking of our agency. Unfortunately, because you don't have any published works at this time, you will probably never get published. Thank you for, Thank you for submitting your work to us. Because I don't have any published works, I will never get published. Thanks, lady. Does that even make any sense? That's like having somebody come in for a job interview and be like, hey, I want to get a job here. Do you have any experience? Nope, but I'm willing to learn. Oh, well, you don't have any experience. We can't hire you. How the hell am I supposed to get the experience if you won't hire me? How am I supposed to get published if I can't get published? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I don't have anything published, so I can't get published. Like, that was the most stupid thing I've ever heard. So immediately I was like, okay. What do I do now? Literally, I can tell you I didn't stop writing at that time, but I stopped querying. I stopped sending out my query letters at that time. 2008, in 2005, I started writing Forbidden Affair. In 2008, I started looking up publishers and publishing companies. So, they're vanity presses is what they call them. The vanity presses, self-publishers. So I started looking those up. And that's how I got to, 2012 is when I got published. Which, for me, that seems really, really awful because I started looking into publishing in 1996. 1996 is when I started looking into publishing. But traditionally publishing. Because at that time, if you were a self-published author, it's because you wrote crap. And you couldn't get traditionally published. That's just how that worked. Or at least that's what everybody was told. Don't go through these vanity publishers because if you go through a vanity publisher, that means that you can't really write. The traditional published way is the only way to go. So of course you try not to look at it that way. Okay, well, maybe my work is crap and I have to go the vanity publishing way. I'll sell my own books and see if I can't get a traditional publisher to see me. You know, that's how it was working out for me. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, my stuff's not crap. They just don't want it. Meh. And then I get this letter and I'm going, that's why people go through vanity publishers. That's why people do self-publishing. It's because you get letters like this that state that, oh, well, we're not going to publish you because you're not already published. I get that, okay? They want to know what articles you have already published. They want to know if you have a blog, because at that point, the internet was coming up with a lot of people writing their blogs. I can't do it. I can't do a blog. I don't understand the whole point. It's just me. I'm not knocking any blogs or anything like that, because I read some. I wouldn't know what to write. I can't even write a short story. I tried. I was going to submit a short story to a short story contest. I literally cannot write one 2,500 to 5,000 words. I don't feel like there's enough information. So my thing is, though, is that because you're not already published, you can't get published. Self-publishing is literally the only way to even get out there and get your reader base for a traditional publisher nowadays to even actually look at you. That's the worst feeling in the world, to know that, oh, well, we're only publishing people who have already been published since like the 70s. Thanks, jackass. You're so great. So that's probably the worst thing that ever happened to me. I literally just kept writing. And it was funny because I remember my husband telling me, he says, you know what, I would have given up. I would have just given up at that point. Would have been like, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I told him, I said, I'm not giving up on something that I've wanted to do since I was 6 years old. You know, you get some of those people who are like, oh, I want to be a fireman or a policeman or a princess or a dinosaur, you know, when I grow up. So I always wanted to be a writer, and that was it. I wanted to write books. I will tell you, Christopher Pike was my favorite book. And because of that story I wrote in first grade, my mother refused to allow me to read Christopher Pike. So I hid them from her in my locker. I had Christopher Pike books from the library in my locker. Nowadays, you can't get that stuff from the school library. It's too violent. So we've got to shelter our children from all this violence. Really? Because I'm pretty sure that these children that are reading this stuff, it's not causing violence. There's just a violence somewhere already in their person. They're going to murder if they want to. You know, it's, I don't know. I could sit here and talk about killers all day long. We're not going to do that. Okay, so the last one is the final image. I can't read. You went there and came back with a book in your hands. Talk to us about how you felt when you were there, either holding it in your hands or such. So, and such, that's like ebook. Okay, I do not have this in ebook format. That's a totally different formatting and changing everything because it won't look the same on an ebook as it does in print. I'm not technology inclined. I know how to use Photoshop because I had to do that at work. I know how to use Microsoft Word because I'm not stupid. I can do Microsoft, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, stuff like that. And I can use now the Mac stuff, the Pages, Numbers, Keynote. I think it's Keynote. Isn't it Keynote? Yeah, Keynote. So I can do all of that stuff. I know how to use that. I know how to format those. I know how to do things like that. That I can do. When it comes to actually formatting it specifically for digital format, last week I was trying to do my website on Shopify. I am so confused. So confused. I have no idea how to list anything on there. I don't know how to list it. I don't know how to, get it started. I don't know what I'm doing. I also have no idea how to use websites on computers. I know how to use my phone. I know how to use an app. But I don't know how to use my computer. And I'm like, I never get on the internet on my computer. I get on the internet on my phone because that's how it's always been. I've had the internet on my phone. I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't, deal with it. I use my hotspot to upload these videos. I mean, but this, and it's a matte lamination and not the gloss lamination. So it feels almost like suede or microfiber. These are my favorite. And it has my name on it. So it's good. anything. Every time my book comes, I get so excited. Like my husband told me that my book was, because we have to have it delivered to his work. And when he told me that Family Fare had arrived, I literally had to go get it from him. Like, I couldn't wait. I wasn't going to wait for him to come home. I wanted it right then. So, anytime I have my book in my hand is a time for me to be happy. It's like I've said once before, I feel like my notebook is like my security blanket. I have to have my notebook with me, the one that I'm writing in all the time, because it makes me feel better about myself, because it makes me feel accomplished, like I've done something with my life. I don't know. But anyway, I like writing. It's something I do. I feel like I've been put through the ringer going through agents and publishers, and most publishers won't even respond to you. You'll send them a query letter and they'll open it up and go, it doesn't sound interesting. So you sit and you wait 6, 9, 12 months. No response. Okay, next. Some agents and some publishers do not accept simultaneous submissions. You have to submit it to them and then wait. And that's it. That's all you can do. Then there's others that do accept simultaneous submissions, so you can send it to all of them all at once. It's very frustrating. It's probably the worst waiting game anybody has ever gone through. I just want to tell everybody at this point, create space and lightning source / Ingram Spark, KDP, whatever you want to call it. Create space, KDP, lightning source, Ingram Spark, blah, blah, blah. They're your best bet. They're not expensive. Literally, they are not expensive. Everybody always talks about the fact that, I can't get published because I don't have enough money. It's not thousands and thousands of dollars anymore. It's literally not. Now, yes, I could probably have gotten better book covers for my books, but these are mine. The Affair series is my first series. I wanted to do that. Yes, for Killer Suburbia, I probably will hire a book cover creator. I will probably do digital book covers. I will probably have somebody create the book cover for me and make it better. But for me, the Affair series, this was mine. This was all mine, and I wanted to do it. I wanted it to be mine, and I wanted to be the one. I did that. I got put that on there. It's just how I wanted it to be. Because a lot of people are all like, that's cool. I like that. Well, of course you do. I did it. I'm proud of myself for doing everything all by myself. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It was my book, my baby, and I wanted to do it. So, I did. That's it. If I can figure out how to link Carrow Brown's channel below, I will do that. Otherwise, I'll just put her name in there so you can see it. And you can go check out her channel. She does writing videos as well. And I will tell you, this book right here, this is the second time I'm reading this one. I'm literally at the very beginning. But this is the second time that I'm reading this book. Every time I start a new series, I read this book. And since I'm starting a new series in the beginning of the year, I want to get a brush up on, writing the fiction series. And Grammar 101, I read this one once a year. Just to get brushed up on, because sometimes, like past, P-A-S-T, and past, P-A-S-S-E-D. I'm like, P-A-S-T looks right if I walked past the desk, right? But it's not. It's P-A-S-S-E-D. And I know that in my head, but when I'm writing, sometimes it doesn't work. Anyway, I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Not so much on Twitter. More on Instagram. Facebook is kind of a hit or miss. Go check out my other videos because I don't know how to post the little card thingy either. I've clicked on it and it freaks me out when it does things. So technology is not my friend. Go ahead and check out my other videos. I do have my publishing gap, so that gives you the whole story about why my books are published, 2012, 2019. And then I've got a few other videos down there as well. I do post every Monday. They are generally scheduled to come out at exactly 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Specific because I'm a planner. I do everything early. So it's already sitting in there. So at 1 o'clock, it automatically hits. I have it scheduled that way because that's just what I do. Because I don't want to be like, okay, is it coming up time? Is it almost time? Is it almost time? I don't need to deal with that. I schedule them for Mondays. They get posted at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that's it. I'll see you next week. Bye.